It's E3 weekend, and though that does mean that most of the gaming news will have to wait until next week, there was one showcase to cover on Saturday. Electronic Arts kicked off the weekend event with a conference showing off their upcoming titles, and they really want you to know how sorry they are about loot boxes and that they will be backing off on the practice.
We launched our game in November of last year, and clearly we didn't get it quite right.
No loot boxes, no premium pass.
So no loot boxes, no ability to pay for power, no ability to spend money on gameplay advantage at all within Anthem.
The conference started off with Battlefield 5, taking on a World War II theme and, of course, implementing a Battle Royale game mode. And going from Battlefield to Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is desperately trying to make up for its disastrous launch last November. The magic of movie synergy will bring a new solo-themed game mode next week, and later this summer a squad system will help players connect with each other. More game modes are also on the way, along with new customization features, characters, and battlegrounds, particularly themed on the Clone Wars era. General Grievous, Count Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker will all be playable characters sometime in the near future. Meanwhile, it looks like rumors of Disney pulling the Star Wars license haven't quite come to pass. They didn't have a trailer, but EA did announce a new Star Wars title, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a new game set in the aftermath of Order 66, scheduled for late 2019. And just to remind people that they didn't always hate everything EA did, they hauled out Martin Solin to announce Unravel 2, a sequel to the sleeper hit that focuses on co-op puzzles and platforming. Doubling down on super nervous foreign developers, EA announced another indie title, Sea of Solitude, a game where loneliness literally turns people into monsters. It's unclear what it plays like, but it sure looks neat. Of course, not every game is going to be microtransaction free. Command & Conquer Rivals is an upcoming mobile game in the vein of Clash Royale, and inevitable microtransaction nonsense aside, it actually does look kinda fun. The game is a simple enough real-time strategy game that has two sides throwing units at each other as they compete for 3 control points. And finally, we got a better look at Anthem, which will be combining a narrative of a single-player BioWare story with an MMO-ish world, probably not dissimilar to how BioWare designed Star Wars: The Old Republic. It still looks like Destiny with Iron Man suits, so if that sounds appealing to you, there you go. On the tech side of things, EA is looking to change the way they distribute their games, experimenting with a game streaming service capable of streaming their titles direct to your phone, laptop, or PC. The streaming service will work in conjunction with an updated Origin subscription, granting players access to a healthy chunk of EA's library and transitioning EA into more of a Netflix for gaming service. In other gaming news, Valve has put their foot down on whether or not they are going to put their foot down. It turns out they aren't. The Steam store has been kind of schizophrenic about their store policy in the last few weeks. Last month, several developers, primarily those in the field of anime-style games of a lewd nature, received notice out of the blue that Valve would be removing their games from Steam for violating their nebulous rules about sexual content. A baffling declaration, as many of these games have been well known and present on the store for years. But just as it looked like Steam was facing, as described by the developers of Honeypot, an anime titty holocaust, just as abruptly a second set of emails were sent out telling developers to disregard the first set. Meanwhile, while Valve was playing will they won't they about censoring softcore hentai games, they were simultaneously taking criticism for allowing the sale of Active Shooter on their storefront, a game developed to simulate a school shooting situation. Much like Hatred before it, another gratuitously violent shooter which was briefly removed from Steam before Gabe Newell personally intervened, Active Shooter forced Valve to consider their role in what is or isn't allowed to be sold on their platform. In the case of Active Shooter, Valve punted, discovering that the game was developed by a known troll developer that had previously been banned from Steam. The circumvention of the ban gave them the excuse they needed to take down the game without setting a precedent. This ultimately led to a blog post this week stating that Valve's policy going forward will be, with certain exceptions, to let the market decide what they want to buy. Outside of explicitly illegal content or obvious troll games, it looks like Valve is going to focus less on policing which games are allowed on Steam and instead work to develop tools to better help the customer sift through the carnage. Or you could just let me do it, because I do wade through the release list every week, and if you think some of the lame-looking games that I point out are bad, you should see some of the crap that I can't even make a joke out of. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Before we head into new releases, there were a slew of new trailers that came out this week. The Bumblebee movie is apparently going to be a thing, with a real Rick Roll joke. Meanwhile, the MCU Spider-Man might not be feeling so good, but things are looking great on the animated front. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse will team Miles Morales up with a possibly dimension-hopping Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy to tackle the ultimate villains with some awesome, if occasionally a little choppy, claymation. And if you think keeping track of reality-hopping Spider-People is confusing, just try and wrap your head around the new Halloween movie. Michael Myers is officially back for Halloween in a movie that creates a 6th variant universe in the Halloween multiverse, this one disavowing the events of every movie in the franchise save the first one. And now for new releases, if you were wondering where Hawkeye was during the Infinity War, it turns out he was off with his friends playing tag. A childhood game taken to extreme measures has 4 friends teaming up to finally get their hands on Jeremy Renner as they play tag in incredibly inappropriate situations. And for some more cartoony heroics, there's The Incredibles 2. It's weird, out of all the Pixar movies, this is the one people actually asked to get a sequel for, but judging from the trailer, it just kinda looks like the first movie with the roles reversed. Finally, for something a little more serious, there's Gotti. John Travolta aside, for some reason I just have a great interest in watching a movie about a powerful criminal ultimately put in prison by Robert Mueller. Over in television, 12 Monkeys starts up its 4th season this week. I'd tell you what it's about, but that trailer was pretty much indecipherable to me. And on Netflix, Voltron the Legendary Defender is headed for its 6th season, which seems like a crazy number of episodes for an 80s cartoon reboot. For WoW players out there, World of Warcraft Before the Storm by Christy Golden hits bookshelves this week, setting up the backstory for the upcoming expansion. And out this week on Steam, outside of the usual slew of henty games, low-effort crap, and Russian parodies, there are still a few decent-looking titles, like Jurassic World Evolution. The theme park sim we've all been waiting for. You build a park, clone some dinosaurs, and wait for the inevitable death and destruction. And oh hey, more nudity. Well, in this case, at least Lust for Darkness looks like its gratuitous sexual content lends to the horror elements in the game. Module TD Sci-Fi Tower Defense is this week's first tower defense game. It looks nice enough, even though the inclusion of humanoid raccoons looks suspiciously designed to invoke a certain gun-toting Marvel character. For another tower defense game, Hex Trains doesn't look as visually interesting, but there is a neat color-coded system in place along with the usual game mechanics. And what the hey, one more for this week. Protolife looks to be by far the most ambitious tower defense entry of the week, incorporating a lot of RTS elements as opposed to the usual tower building. For some platforming action, Baratheon is a pretty cool looking retro adventure game in the good old Game Boy style. It looks like 2 players can co-op their way through a cartoony looking Metroidvania style adventure. And finally on PC, just in time to take advantage of that sweet movie synergy, LEGO Incredibles will take the Parr family through the events of both movies in typical LEGO style. Over on consoles, it's a big week for Paladins, the kind of Overwatchy hero shooter. Not only is its Realm Royale spin-off catching the attention of the Battle Royale community, now the franchise is opening up to a new audience on the Nintendo Switch. Wrapping things up with this week's awesome video, 4-Star Bento, a spin-off channel from the beloved Team 4-Star, has an in-depth look at the Ronin Warriors.
Besides Matt Hill's heavy West Coast surfer dude Canadian accent with Ryo, Michael Donovan's painfully put on British accent for Cy, Walt Perry's odd New York dialect for Rowan, and Talpa's Welsh accent provided by actor Mina E. Mina. It seems they were dead set on making the cast come off as more cosmopolitan than it actually was.
And because I'm feeling generous, check out a relatively new channel I discovered. Because Science, where a man that looks like Thor and Captain America had a baby that was then educated by Tony Stark, uses the power of science to explain all your favorite geeky things. In this case, why you should never do a superhero landing.
Here I am at my local rock climbing gym. Because time to stop is so important for impact force, let's time how long it takes me to attempt a normal landing and a superhero landing, respectively. My SHL attempts averaged about 1/3 of a second. Wow, so cinematic. And here are my normal landing attempts. These averaged a little over half a second. As you can see, the SHL stopped me quite a bit more quickly, and trust me, you can feel that force difference.
That's everything for this week, so have you forgiven EA for their transgressions, or will your gaming dollars still go elsewhere? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, you know where the button is, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with a friend, and have a great week!